Hey everybody, welcome back to the Saltworks podcast. We are so excited you're here today. It is the 100th episode of the Saltworks. Today, we can't believe it. I don't know if we knew there was going to be an episode 2 when we started it, but here we are, only on the Lord's faithfulness. And so today, to celebrate, we decided to have Bethany Wilson, who was episode 1. We revisit a lot of those points today and the why of why she and Amy started the Vine, the why of behind the Saltworks, but we also get to talk about what's happened in the Vine in the last 3 years, what they're doing today. We share more of Bethany's story that we didn't get into in episode 1. It's just such a sweet time. We just enjoyed sitting and visiting with her, but I also enjoyed the aspects of through the Vine and through the things that they're doing, what the Lord has done in Bethany and in their hearts and in their working their faith as a muscle. And so I cannot wait to share with you today the 100th episode, Bethany Wilson. Okay, well, today's fun.
So fun.
Because you're here with us, Bethany. Lindsay, this is your first official co-host.
Yes.
Because we've done your story.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
This is fine. We've got a brand new setup for people who are watching. Hopefully this works out.
Like trial and error.
Yes. But also, it's the 100th episode of the Saltworks today. Yay!
Congrats, y'all.
We just celebrated in lowercase. So thank you for the golf clap. No, Bethany actually brought us donuts that spelled 100. We'll post that picture with today's episode. So that was sweet. I had a confetti popper gun. I don't know what it is. That I was going to bring today, and I didn't. So life. Yeah. We'll do that on the 150.
There you go.
You know,
yes.
Maybe. Who knows? So, yes. So with the 100th rolling around, like I knew that was coming up, and I was like, okay, what are we going to do? I want to do something special, And so I was saying this out loud to Andrew, and he was like, well, you need to have Bethany because she was episode 1. So for people who, I know, blame Andrew.
It's his fault.
Yeah, we'll throw him under the bus. But yeah, so for people who haven't been here since day 1, you were our first episode. I had no idea what I was doing. Not that shifted like a whole lot, but maybe a little, We've moved the dial a little in 100 episodes, but I didn't even know if I could do this, if I was doing this, but you agreed to be my guinea pig. But honestly, and I can say this too to set this up, and I totally think people should go back and listen to episode 1 because I know there will be a lot that we don't touch on of how the Vine got started, although we can. And it's such a good story. But really, it was that story that was like, I feel like this needs to be out there. And I don't know if a blog will reach as many people as I would like it to be reaching. And so it was just one of those things that was like, I don't know, could I do this? Never had any clue that there'd be 99 more episodes, I think, after that. But here we are. Still going. So where was the Vine when we did episode 1?
So that was in 2022.
Yes.
And the Vine had only been open for 3 months.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. Because this was like the exact same time that we recorded. I think then.
Yeah.
And so just to see, I mean, I don't even know how we were surviving then. It was just the Lord was moving so fast during that time that a lot was happening.
Yeah.
But a lot has changed and we have grown so much.
Right.
In 3 years.
Well, and we can say this much of the story without going through the whole episode 1 is like, y'all almost kind of like opened, like, I guess we have to now, and so there was a lot of like, we're going forth. We don't know what it comes next, Does it feel like that to you now at all? Like at times, or do you kind of feel like, okay, we have a more concrete idea of what we're about? What do you feel like has shifted there?
So I do feel like the concrete part of like what we knew the vine was supposed to be has
Yeah.
always been the same.
Yeah.
It has just, we did not imagine the growth that would happen and that would happen so fast.
Mm.
With the clients, with being more involved in the community.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we were thinking we were going to do 2 Bible studies. They were both on Tuesday, and now, which I'm sure we'll walk through kind of a week in a minute, but like it's an everyday thing. And, you know, our hours have changed. We've actually grown and hired more people, which has been fantastic.
Yeah.
And so, but I think that what the Lord laid on our hearts was to minister to these women and to let them know that, one, they're not alone.
Yeah.
You know, before we had like our place on Evangeline Street, we were just like, we just need a McDonald's and a pregnancy test. You know, I mean, honestly, like that's kind of all we thought that two that we could afford, you know.
Yeah.
And so just loving on women, helping them feel seen and loved, and walking through an unplanned pregnancy or an exciting planned pregnancy, whatever that looks like,
right,
has always been the same, or maybe post-abortion care.
Yeah.
And so it's just grown a lot that way.
You did like touch on this, but for the people who have never heard of the Vine, okay, what was the heart behind the why of like, we do need to do something even before you knew what it would look like? Like, what was the heart behind your why?
So, Amy and I, you know, we had worked together previously. And we just knew that the Lord was not done in this ministry with us. You know, we knew that the need for a pregnancy ministry, and my story, which Hallie, I didn't even share on episode 1 because it just wasn't out yet. Like, you know, like I was still holding on to so much fear.
Yeah.
And so I remember me and you sitting around the table, and because it was not recorded then. And
it wasn't videoed.
Yeah, it wasn't videoed. That's what it was. And you were like, maybe at the end, you just kind of give me this look if we shouldn't go there. And I like gave you that look, like, we're not going to talk about my story. Like, I just can't.
Yeah.
You know, I'd shared my story at a women's retreat, and that was it. There were still so many people so dear to me who did not know my story. And so my story is, you know, that I have walked with the Lord since I think around the age of 10, and was still living in the world, which you can't live for the world and live for Jesus. And after I dropped out of college and I moved to Bossier to work at the Buckle, and during that time, I was partying a lot and doing a lot of not great things, and I found myself pregnant, and I was not with the father of the baby. We had already broken up, and because I was not digging into the word every day, I was not pursuing the Lord. I was, you know, not really involved in church, didn't have a great community. I found myself at the doors of an abortion clinic. And that was a very dark time of my life. And so I finally went through a Bible study called Surrendering the Secret, which is an 8-week study for anyone who's gone through an abortion. And going through that Bible study truly changed my life, because that was, I think I did it 12 years after I experienced an abortion. And it changed my marriage. It changed the way I parented. It changed my friendships. It just changed everything about me. And I knew that I was not alone in that. And so that was my part on helping start the Vine, is that there are so many women out there, because statistics are 1 in 3 people have experienced an abortion. And so I did not want anybody to find out they're pregnant and feel so alone as I did. So such a dark place, you know, so worried about what everyone else was going to think about me, or being a single mom, or not having the support, or, anything like that, I want to be that cheerleader for them and walk with them, not just through the pregnancy, but to see that child graduate high school one day, and also want to be there for the person who has experienced an abortion. One, you're not alone, and what Jesus did on the cross was for you, and so the forgiveness and freedom that you can find in such a dark time.
Yeah. Well, I had a friend yesterday kind of say this just in a message, but it was an expression that like really struck me. And it was just like when we choose to open up and share our story, those hard places, that there's such freedom in that quiet bondage. And like that's what so many people don't realize. Like when we have hard things and we want to keep that to ourselves, like you are living in a quiet bondage that like once you, and like you said, like once you understand that like you're not alone and there are other people going through that, then you get to be a comfort, whenever you've walked through something hard. So I don't know, that made me think about you saying that just now, just made me think about that, because it is, there's a lot of freedom in being willing to open up those hard places for other people too, to let people know that they're not alone, because in most all cases, like we're not alone in anything. So
and to get to share Jesus's love through all of that. I mean, there's so much of this redemption story that when you are getting to share that with somebody who has an unwanted pregnancy or who has experienced an abortion, there's never a time they don't talk about Jesus, and so you're always talking about him, bringing people to Christ. Maybe it's the first time they've ever heard about Jesus. There's a lot of that I see. And that always amazes me because we live in the Bible Belt, and you just think every single person knows about Jesus, and they don't. So there's just so much beauty in sharing your story. Not that everyone has to do it in this setting, it's one-on-one. It's so intimate and beautiful and hard and all the things. But you feel his presence. And so I would never change that. And so I have grown, I think, in 3 years of, the first time on episode 1, I would not share that then. And what the Lord has done through me since then. He's so kind.
That's so good. Do you think that I'm going to be alone, I can't do this by myself, would be like the loudest lie for someone who's considering an abortion?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Satan is great at his job, and he whispers that loudly, and finances. There's so much, but yes, just what is everyone else going to think of you? Here comes the shame, and then after you have the abortion, it's like, well, now you can never tell anybody that because you're going to get stoned.
Yeah.
I mean,
isn't that crazy how the lies shift?
Yeah. He just continues them. And then it's, we have to keep this a secret because no one's going to love you. You're probably never going to become a mom. You're for sure never going to get married. Like all of those things are part of my testimony, and the darkness just continues.
Yeah. I'm thinking about the person who feels like they cannot say the thing, and maybe it's an abortion, maybe it's something else to anyone, much less in a setting like this, because you were there, like you were there at some point that I can't tell anyone. And then even like, I distinctly remember, I don't think you'd mind me saying, because we've talked about this specifically in front of a crowd before. But I remember even before like you have your story and your notes and you're about to go up and share it in front of a whole group of women, like obviously people know, like you still believed somewhere deep down that was going to be what happened, that you were going to be just totally ostracized. That means no one would talk to you. I know you don't like
I love that you gave me the definition.
I know you don't like big words. Okay.
I hate big words. Thank you, Hallie. That's an answered prayer right there. It was an answered prayer.
I'm homeschooling now, so I can throw out that definition. Yeah. Okay, so that like you were going to be totally alone, which was your fear to begin with. Like that's like the fear that he keeps running. You're going to be alone raising this baby. Now you have to be alone because nobody can know. Now, I mean, okay, well, when I tell it, I'm going to be alone. It's just like that is the constant lie that comes from all angles of sharing or confessing something. And I remember like I came to check on you. You're like in the wing, ready to go out and share it. And you were like, everybody's going to hate me. Like that was the you know, and
Makes me teary.
yeah, yeah, we had
Oh,
we
we
had
had 'em.
tissues. Yeah, I don't know where they went. But like one, like I watched you believe that somewhere, like maybe it wasn't your whole self, but to some extent believe that, and yet you still shared it, which tells me like you believed in helping that one person that needed to hear. Of course, we know it was more than that,
Right.
but also like that's not what happened. So, can you speak to the person that's like, I don't think I can ever share my story, whatever that looks like, with anyone, much less with a larger crowd?
Well, I 100% remember every little feeling of that
Mm-hmm.
moment that you were talking about. And I the enemy was just so loud of just like, you're not going to have any friends.
Mm-hmm.
Because one, if anybody's talking to you now, somebody's going to think that they had an abortion. So nobody's going to want to come talk to you because you're the abortion girl, and like just all of these things. But
Mm-hmm.
it was just so much that like it was so easy to believe, you know. But then I had people like you and my other prayer warriors that would always speak truth into me, and that never happened.
Mm-hmm.
If anything, there were people who came and hugged me anytime I've shared my story and
Mm-hmm.
whispered in my ear, "Me too." And that is why I wanted to continue to share that, is because no matter what you've done, if it's an abortion, if it's drugs, if it's whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
you're not the only person who's
Mm-hmm.
experienced this, and somebody does need to hear your story.
Yeah.
Um, but Jesus is always with you.
Mm-hmm.
He does tell you he never leaves you or forsakes you. And
Mm-hmm.
so he is always right there, and he's going to surround you with prayer warriors and people who are going to pour into you and love you and, all of those
Mm-hmm.
things. And so I hope I answered your question.
No, absolutely you did. And it's funny you said, and I do think that we think this about our own story and whatever it is that we shared. Like maybe someone has been freed of an addiction or whatever, that people are like, that's what people are going to think of me. But like what's actually true is like I forget that's your story, even though I know like you're the vine, like like even though I know that you're what you're doing, like I forget that you have that perspective. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Like, but that's what's actually true, because what actually people see when they look at you is like, man, she's doing ministry, she's being the hands and feet of Jesus. Like that's what they notice.
It's the light they focus on, and I think the enemy wants
Yeah,
us to believe it's the darkness that people are going to focus on, but that's not how that works.
Yeah,
True.
But it feels that way.
Yes, it does. It does.
yeah. Well, and also like when you're sharing what feels to be your biggest weakness, like that you're like, well, then people are going to see me as weak. You know what I
Right.
mean? Or dirty or dark, whatever whatever that word is that you would apply to how you feel like, but actually people see that as strength and freedom and, oh, I could never do that. Or, like they want that freedom because they can see that there's no chains,
Yeah.
Um,
It's true.
well, okay, so having said that, a lot of what we talked about as far as lies and like all of those, whether it was pre-abortion, whether it was I can't tell anyone, whether that was okay, I feel called to tell everyone, all the lies like veered towards like I'm going to be alone. But like in everything that I heard you say that the vine was built for and is doing is like basically creating a place of belonging.
Yeah.
It's creating a place of community, a place to land, a place for you need a sweater. Okay. You need diapers. All right. You just need somebody to hold your hand. Like that's what I've seen. What do you feel like the vine does for someone who walks in and says, I don't even know what I need?
We, I 100% think that's what we do. We're right there, arms wide open when somebody walks through the door. We're huggers in there. We do ask if we can give a hug because, if somebody's experienced an abuse or something, then that's probably not the thing to do. But we want to be there to meet any need that you have. And if we can't meet that need, we have the resources in our community, because our community has a bazillion resources. We have such a good community for that. And so we want to be there with you to build a relationship. That's what we're here. That's what Jesus built us for, is for community, for relationships. And so we open that up to, yes, you can come to our Bible study. You don't have to come to our Bible study to get diapers or something like that. But we want you to feel his presence. We want you to feel his love. We want you to feel seen when you walk in, so that you're going to continue to come back, and then in hopes eventually join a Bible study, you know.
I want to hear you talk about your day to day, the weekly things y'all are doing, and like kind of go into that. And this might segue into that, but like what has been surprising to you about the Vine that you never thought would happen? Like anything stick out in your mind as far as that?
Probably that we see like 300 people a week.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
You know, like
Yeah,
that
awesome.
is wild. But it's always been my prayer of like, Lord, show me where you're working and get me there.
Yeah.
That's from Experiencing God Bible Study, and I did that 15 years ago or something. And that prayer has always been a hard one, because I have seen in multiple cases, just to kind of hold on, because he is going to show you that, and it's not going to be something easy or pretty, you know. But I truly want to walk where Jesus guides my feet every single day, and I don't want to be a distraction from that. And so he has opened the doors for the Vine, not to just be at our building because of the lack of transportation, you know, in Monroe and from West Monroe to Monroe, like going over the bridge, there is no transportation. And so for us to get out in the community more, and in order to do that, we've had to have more volunteers, which we could not run without, you know. And then he's been so gracious that we've actually got to hire, you know, a few more people. And so it was that I was the only paid employee for almost 2 years.
Yeah.
You know, which was a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, going into day to day.
How did that happen, Bethany? Like, did y'all say like, okay, somebody invited us to come do this Bible study there, or like, okay, we've had 5 people say they can't make it here, and how do we get it to them? Like, how did that transpire to where y'all said, okay, we need to open up our,
So one of our grandmothers who was raising grandkids, she came to our Bible study on Tuesday. Tuesday's kind of always been our day to do Bible studies, if it was morning or night studies. And her community was Oak Manor Apartments, which is on the south side on Peach Street. And so she invited us one summer to come and do Good News Club there. And so we had some training with Good News Club. And if you're not familiar with that, it's like a VBS type, you know. And so we went out to Oak Manor Apartments for a week last summer, I guess, and just met with the kids and the moms in this community. We had no idea what we were going into. Honestly, the very first day we're on the basketball court there, and it's a covered basketball court. It's a perfect place in the Louisiana June heat to do a Bible study. And so many SWAT team cars just pull up. And so we're like, okay. So we're just praying, and we're just going to keep going. And I'm just thankful that the kids are on this basketball court with me. I know that there's cops around us, so we're fine, you know. And I just truly did not even feel scared, which is wild, you know, but we just kept rolling. And at the end of that week, the moms there were like, so y'all are done? And I was like, yeah, like we are, you know, but like they just begged us to come back. They were like, no, we want to do something, but they didn't have cars, the lack of transportation. And so we said, we'll figure this out. And so we started doing a Bible study there on Mondays. And so that's where we go every Monday, is Oak Manor.
Yeah.
And it is, I love it so much. We go around, we knock on their doors, tell them we're there. The men out there have asked us why it's just for women, you know, but we want to keep it just for women because, you know, for safety, for lots of reasons. And so we reached out to a man who goes out there and ministers to the men out there, because there's times that I've had to sit, on the stairs with some guys, and we've held hands because they were like, hey, before you leave, pray for us. And I'm like, okay, like they want it, they just need somebody out there to minister to them. But I've sat with kids who've been expelled from school, and they were sitting there rolling a blunt. It's just, it's different. But, and I'm just sitting there talking to them, and I'm like, have you heard about Jesus? And this one conversation with this guy was like, what have you done? And I was like, oh, I probably have done anything worse than you've ever done. And so I shared my story with him, and he was like, wow, my sister's gone through that. And like, then he started opening up about his life. He put the blunt down, which was great. Because that was a little odd, but it's just truly praying every single day, Lord, show me where you're working and get me there. And he does. And in that moment, that high school boy who got expelled being seen and hearing about Jesus,
So what I'm hearing you say is the thing you thought was going to discount you most from ministry is actually what the Lord's using.
Yeah, Hallie. You're right. Well, I always think, and I'll talk about this more in a minute, but it does, it shows like, hey, whatever you've done, I promise I've done worse, but not in God's eyes, in our eyes, right? Yeah. And so I can sit here and relate to probably more people. I mean, just because an abortion, it is murder. It's what it is. It's a sexual sin. There's just so many things in it that I can relate to of how I was living during those times. And so, But Monday, Oak Manor, it's grown tremendously. Kim Dozer, I know you've had Lydia on the podcast, but that's Lydia's mom, so she teaches that Bible study. And we have a few volunteers that go just to help hold the little kids that aren't in school yet. But it's just such a sweet time. Yeah. And I was out there Monday, again, over the weekend. They were like, the SWAT team was here, but they are praying truly for revival out there. And so it's cool to get to be part of it.
So that's Monday. That's just Monday. That's just how you start your week.
That's just Monday.
That's one way to start it. So what does the rest of your week look like?
So Tuesday, we still do our Bible study at the Vine. And Oak Manor and Tuesday at the Vine, we model it around a dining room table just because Jesus sat around a table with his disciples and with his friends. He says that a few times in his word. And we eat together and we dive into the word. And right now we're walking through John. We're reading scripture by scripture. We're getting a notebook out. We're making sure that we're taking notes. Like we're learning how to do all those things together. But so that the word is not intimidating to open. For especially new believers, but non-believers too, and so that's what we do on Tuesday. And then Wednesday we go to Grace Place. So that's today, which I love Wednesday, Grace Place Day. It's where I meet so many of our moms who come to Monday or Tuesday, but I see them in a different place, meeting with their friends and stuff like that. So we get to sit, we get to love on them, we get to eat with them, hold their children, but we bring diapers. And so everywhere we go, we actually bring diapers. We're the diaper ladies. Yeah. But that also builds a connection for us to get to meet more moms or more families. And so if they need diapers, we also give them a card. We invite them to come to the Vine. Hey, we have a store there. You can get more than diapers. Just when I'm out in the community, that's all I pack in my car. Yeah. And so that's just another way to get them to the Vine and then involved into a Bible study. Yeah. Over the summer, we did Good News Club at Grace Place every Wednesday for the month of July, which was super fun because that didn't just reach moms. It reached the men, the kids, everybody standing in line before they walked in. So Grace Place, if you don't know, is a soup kitchen downtown. And so that's what we do on Wednesday. Yeah. And then Thursday is normally our post-abortion day. So we do Bible studies. We've actually done 18 post-abortion Bible studies in the 3 years that we've been open. Wow. Which is crazy. Yes. So many people have found freedom. And it's cool because those people who have gone through that study are some of truly my very best friends because we understand each other. Right. We understand the triggers that make us maybe spiral in some way or whatever it is. right now we're not doing a post-abortion Bible study currently. We are starting one soon, but we also do prison ministry now, which is something new for us. Well, we've actually been doing it for a year now, but Mindy, yes.
I want to ask you this about the post-abortion study before we move on, because for someone who is like at the place where they don't feel like they can say, they don't feel like they can tell anyone, how do they get involved without feeling like I'm not ready to write my name on the dotted line?
Yeah. So when we put our studies up, we share it on social media. It's going to be on our website, which I'm sure you'll put in the notes, but it's thevineofnela.org. They can call our office. They can always reach out to me if they feel comfortable. It's for sure a sacred place. We don't ever share who's gone through those studies. That's your story to tell. And that's also why we don't do this in a church setting, because you can't walk. You don't want anybody to walk past that room and be like, oh, those people have experienced an abortion.
Or what are you doing up here on a Thursday?
Yes. When if you're going through that study, you haven't found freedom yet, and so it's still a secret. And when people start the study, sometimes their husbands don't even know about their abortion, and they're hiding what Bible study they're actually going to, or maybe it's, hey, I'm meeting with friends every Thursday at 11 or whatever time we're going to do it to eat, when they're really coming to a Bible study. And that's on their terms to tell their story, or to tell, we are obviously encouraged to tell your spouse when it's time, but yeah, it's a sacred place.
Yeah. So how did y'all get plugged into prison ministry? How did that begin?
I'm excited. I'm excited to hear about this. I don't know that I know the behind the scenes story of all that.
It's been really neat. Mindy Lancaster and Jerry Ann, they're sisters, and they have powerful testimony. But they have redefined ministries, and so they go behind the bars and talk to women, and they do men too, because they travel to multiple prisons in Louisiana and out of Louisiana. And so, not to tell their story, but they have invited me to go with them a few times. And so I was like, sure, didn't know really what to expect. My first few times I went with them, and it was incredible.
Yeah.
It was just powerful. And so that led to the Vine partnering with them. And so we bring a post-abortion team into the prison. And so I don't go with them anymore. And it's normally me I've gone by myself once, but normally it's 3 to 4 of us that go. And we do our post-abortion Bible study, kind of. It's what the Lord laid on our heart, but we do go in there talking about our stories, because there are people who were in there for murder that we talk to. And so again, I can relate to them. Like, I should be the person who is sitting in this room. And not just for an abortion, but for multiple other things that I've done in my life. I could have easily, probably been in there. And so we go in there and say, whenever we talk about abortion, if you haven't experienced that, because not everyone in there has experienced it, a lot of them have, but insert drugs, sexual abuse, physical abuse, whatever it is, you wouldn't be in here if you hadn't experienced trauma.
Yeah.
And so that is what we hit on, every single time. And then whatever the Lord lays on our heart to teach about. But we do worship. We do, we hand out note cards, and they can write prayers on them. We have prayer teams that pray over them. We bring them to our life group and let people pick them to pray over them. And we have a bunch of people praying over these prayer requests, and we just love on them. We hug them. They feel seen. It's been great. We've actually got to do, they do a fall festival. So last year, Grant and I got to go, and we reached out to Brother Bill and Pastor Greg at Cedar Crest and a few other people, because we got to be a part of baptisms, and just making sure, that they agreed with us to do these things. And and we did. And so Grant and I got to baptize a few women together out there, which was, Grant's my husband, for listeners who don't know, but very, very special time, and we got to just play games with them, and they got to had an open mic for them where they got to sing some raps that maybe they made up. A few of them got up there and did some dances that they have made up together. Like, it was just fun.
That's fun.
You know?
That's awesome.
But
yeah,
it's just a cool night. And
is that something that anyone could be involved in? Like, if somebody contacts you and says, I feel called to do that with y'all, like, what does that look like?
They would have to have had to go through a Bible study with us.
Mm-hmm.
And our team truly is just the post-abortion team that goes in.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying that we've never brought somebody who's not experienced abortion in there.
Right.
Mindy's team is bigger.
Yeah.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
they do have to obviously get background checked and all these things to be able to go into a prison. But not going to say no.
Right.
They could reach out if they feel led to it. Just kind of depending on the season that we're in going in there.
Right.
What that looks like.
I love that.
Yeah. So that's Thursdays.
Yeah.
Friday, we started in Union Parish doing a Bible study at the Tree of Righteousness there, which is similar to Grace Place here. It's more of a thrift store, but they also do feed low poverty and homeless. And so we did that kind of through the last spring and the summer. We're kind of on a pause with it right now because we have been so busy that Friday is the day that our office is closed. And Markayla and I just truly try to catch up on all the work from the week.
Yeah.
Sometimes we get to go to Grace Place on Fridays too if we're caught up.
Yeah.
Just to see our moms because we love going there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's what we do in a week.
Yeah. That's
a busy
busy week.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'll never complain about a busy week again.
Our field trips are fun. We've actually done a lot of field trips. It's like Scarecrows in the Garden that's coming up. We bring all of our moms and kids. I think last year we had close to 90 people that we brought with us.
Wow.
With our moms and kids there. And we do a picnic in the park and we go look at the scarecrows. We do something for Christmas, either go to the Children's Museum or we do the Coca-Cola factory and see Santa there.
Yeah.
It's just a fun time with all of them getting together. Yeah.
That's so fun.
So
I know one thing you said in your notes was like, I can't remember how long, maybe you said like 13 years ago, like you had a mentor that was like pushing you to get out of your comfort zone, like already. And even though like you hadn't told your story yet and had no idea, like what did that look like then? And like, how can you look back and see like God's faithfulness in preparing you for everything you just said?
Yeah. So my mentor's name was Deb, and she's actually passed away now. But so this was in Bossier, and it was kind of like somebody threw me at her. We didn't know each other. Beth Moore was doing a Living Proof Life event and in Bossier, and she needed an event coordinator, and somehow that landed in my lap.
That's so awesome and hilarious.
Very well.
Because I can see your face even now if someone asked that.
Like it was like, I don't even know what that entailed. I don't know how we pulled this off, but we did.
It's like the long sigh that you give me when I'm like, hey, do you want to come be on the 100th episode? I can't say no. That's what she always tells me.
Can't say no, he's not. But through that time, Deb became my mentor in life, and she was like my mom's age. And this is why mentors are so important, I think, and women who have already walked ahead of you through life to mentor to younger people. But she would bring me to prayer events. I've never prayed out loud in my life. Maybe God is great, God is good, at the dinner table, that was about it. And so she's like, we're going to a prayer event for the Beth Moore conference. It's about 10 of us. It's going to be a real intimate time with the Lord. And I'm sitting here going, what is an intimate time with the Lord? Like, what are we doing here? And
I don't want to join a cult. Okay.
No. So I walk into a dark room and we're on our knees for an hour. Good thing I was young because I could not do that now. I don't think I could do it for an hour. And I prayed out loud, and I was thinking the whole time, like rehearsing in my head when she told me, like, okay, I need to know what to say. I need to say this, this, this. And then come down to that moment, I just remember being in tears and praying, but that was through the Spirit, right? And that's when I learned that you can't rehearse a prayer. But she taught me how to pray. She taught me, we volunteered with a ministry called Purchased in the Hub, which, Cassie, and you've heard me talk about the Hub before, but the Hub ministers to homeless, and Purchase ministers to sex trafficking, prostitutes, strippers, all those type things. So we were going to the strip clubs every other Friday night to love on dancers there. And that was really out of my comfort zone. I wish I could have said I'd never been in a strip club before, and I had, and now I was going in for completely different reasons, which was just incredible, to meet with these girls in there. And you don't go in there talk about Jesus. You go in there and love on them and try to meet a need. They're going to talk about they don't have insurance, or they're not on birth control, or whatever it is. Hey, here's my number. Give me a call. We'll talk when you're not at work one day. And then we go have lunch. We build that relationship together. We get them connected to doctors, dentists in the area that, would meet those needs for them. But now you have a relationship with them.
Yeah.
So Deb brought me through all these crazy hard things that I didn't expect to be doing, which 13 years later, I do that day to day. I do talk to people every day who are in sex trafficking, who, have experienced an abortion, who, I do pray out loud with somebody every day, which, was so uncomfortable for me then, and every day I'm uncomfortable. But what Deb taught me through those years of just pouring into me and doing hard stuff with me has prepared me to walk, do it now. And then also not bring it home with me, which is very hard. I've had to have some talks with Emily Jones before on that too, of like, hey, man, how do you sleep at night? How do you shake this off and not be, you wake up because you're like thinking of those children, or thinking of that mom, and like what's going on in their life right then. And the wisdom that they've given me through that.
Yeah. You said something along the lines of like, I'm always uncomfortable, or like I'm daily I'm uncomfortable, or something like that. And I know like one thing that's been important to you is that like faith is a muscle. Why is that true? And how is that actually hopeful for us?
So, just those moments that Deb did pour into me, I didn't use all of those. Maybe the scripture that she gave me, I didn't read again for another 10 years or something, or some of those memories didn't pop back up to me. Jackie Hill Perry, I actually wrote it down. She was at the LO conference the other day, and this, she said, sometimes your memory and not your circumstance has to be what drives your worship. And I thought that was so good. And that also reminded me of what Christine Kane said in that podcast about your muscle memory, faith memory, whatever.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to say
faith
here.
Being a muscle.
Yes, that.
Yeah.
And
that can be muscle memory though.
Yes.
I mean,
you know what I'm trying to say. And it's being brought up in church, and those little daily stories in Sunday school, the fruits of the Spirit that you learned back then. I made sure my 2-year-old, well, she's 4 now, but she could say them before she was 2, because that's muscle memory that she's going to need to know later on, and that's just so important.
Would you say that like doing the uncomfortable in the past, on that same note of faith being a muscle, like doing the uncomfortable in the past has made you like more prepared to jump out of your comfort zone today?
100%.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like that, I think that is probably encouraging to every single person, whatever the thing is today. You know what I mean? Of like, hey, like, it's not to say that like when you've been working out that you're ever like, this feels so good while your muscles are screaming. Like there could be days maybe, but like at the same time, like it's not as intimidating. you know the payoff, like you're gonna live, like,
right,
like it just like that habit even becomes muscle memory to keep going back. And I think that's encouraging of like, just start creating those muscle memories of like, what are the fruits of the spirit, and I also think that like that being so important in your story helps y'all minister to people who don't have that yet, you know what I mean, like who that feels intimidating. And when you're used to getting uncomfortable, it's like, I get that it was hard for that person to even walk in here, and so like we can relate on that,
And just how many times, like I remember some of those hard times with doing ministry with Deb, but feeling one spiritual warfare for the very first time. And I truly remember, I will never forget feeling it and just waking up to my Bible with Isaiah 41:10. Do not fear, for I am with you. And he's holding on to me with his righteous right hand. Yeah. And feeling that, but feeling the presence of the Lord through that is something that you long for all the time. And so doing the uncomfortable things, you have to rely on the Lord. Bethany cannot do these things.
Right.
Only the Lord and his spirit will get me through it, and feeling his presence through that is something that I remember going through some of those times with Deb that you long for too. You know, like you want to serve because you do feel him.
Right. Are there days where you get up and you're like, I just don't know if I have it in me today. I don't know if I can do it.
Yes. All the time.
Yeah.
all the time. It's,
I need some Bravenly.
Yes.
That's a prayer.
There you go. I need some Bravenly. Yes. And prayer. And that's, Lord, even though I don't want to do it today, you've given me this day, and there's still a purpose. And there's somebody who he's going to put in front of us, and I don't want them. He can use whoever he wants, right? To make sure that that person hears about him or whatever it is. Yeah. But if you can use me and I get to be a part of that, I don't want to miss it, And so it's I pray that with my kids every day on the way to school, like, give us eyes to see whoever you put in front of us, like you see them.
Yeah.
And that's a prayer that we have to pray wherever we go, is give us eyes to see him like you see him, ears to hear him like you hear him, hands to touch him like you touch him, a nose to smell him like you smell him, and a mouth to speak what you want me to speak. Yeah. And Miss Kathy, who's part of the Vine, which is another mentor in my life, she taught me that 2 years ago, probably. Yeah. And that's a big one.
I love that. Well, okay, so we have talked a lot about what the Vine does, what you do inside the Vine. I would love to switch gears a little bit, not that we have to close the door on any of those things, on what has the Lord done in Bethany through all these things. Because I know, like, being that we're talking about Jesus as the vine, and being that we're talking about you are the branches, like, for you to be able to do that and get to places where I am going to jump out of my comfort zone, and I am going to be faithful today, even though I don't feel like I have it in me, and I am going to pray in the night when I feel darkness or those same lies, like, there has to be a lot of pruning, in the process. And so, like, what does that look like for you? Like, if we can switch gears and look inside, like, Bethany and the things that you've walked through personally, what have you experienced over the last 3 years of getting to those places and getting to where you are now?
A lot of tears, Hallie. It's been, it's not easy. It's not pretty. Yeah. Pruning is necessary, right? Yeah. He talks about that in John 15. And
give us a little, because for somebody that's like, what are you talking about? Give us a little bit of that, because I didn't do that well.
Yes. So, well, if you go to Galatians 5:22 through 23 is the fruits of the Spirit, right? So he prunes us so that we can grow fruit. Yeah. So that we can grow love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. I just said that without singing it. And then
you can sing it, though, if you'd like to. Yeah, Mike. you know?
I don't know that I could ever say it without singing it.
I'll save it. I'll save that for a different time. So in order to have the fruit, you have to be pruned.
Mm-hmm.
And pruning, like I said, is not pretty, but it's necessary for growth.
Mm-hmm.
In order to walk out my calling, I had to be pruned of a lot of things.
Yeah.
Which in the pruning process too, sometimes you can't understand it, or I could not understand it, right? Of why the Lord is pruning maybe certain people out of my life. Some very best friends, who are still, I think, amazing of, and I think that they're doing great work for the Lord. Mm-hmm. But I did have to walk through a very hard time for a whole year of just being pruned from friends. And Hallie, it was probably one of the hardest things I've ever had to walk through. Because they were so dear to me, and that's who I did life with, of me crying all the time. Poor Graham's like, dude, get it together, But like Jamie Ivy said with you at an Abad conference, she said, because I guess she had walked through something similar.
Yeah.
With friends. And being left out, I mean, that's a real thing, and it's hurtful,
Well, especially when your fear has been isolation.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, here, because I'm doing the things I feel called to do, I do feel isolated in these ways. Like, I can see where that would spin into lies. You know what I mean? Like, some facts, but then also some, like, we pad that with, well, this is what they must think, or this is,
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And she said something about, social media. It can be amazing, but it can also be awful.
Yep.
And unfollowing people so that you're not seeing that when you are being left out. And that truly has helped me, tremendously, because I had so much FOMO over not being included in something or whatever.
Yeah.
But then the Lord has also been so good in introducing me to new people. And maybe it's not what I was looking for in friends, that our kids are all the same age. The people who I normally hang out with, their kids are a lot older than my kids. They're a lot older than me. Not a lot, but a little bit for them who are going to listen to this. But they have a lot of wisdom, and they've already walked through what I'm walking through. And it's also been sweet. So pruning has been hard, but it has now turned into sweetness.
Yeah. I love that verse about, like, he disciplines those he loves, like, it feels so painful in the process, but it's like, and I love the aspect too of, like, he, it's something about I should have pulled up this verse, but I didn't think about it till now, like, that he prunes those who are already bearing fruit. Like, it's not like you're not doing good work when you go through a pruning season. It's like, no, like, I'm not the gardener here.
I was about to say, I mean, I can enlighten you on a few things. I don't have a lot, but
but you have to pull off some of the things in order for there to be new growth.
Yes. And that's usually
from things that were good in past seasons.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. So yes. You did great.
Thank you.
That was spot on.
Thank you.
We pruned the dead things, the parts of us that, like, aren't beneficial anymore, but, like, you even prune, like, some good things too, to, like, have more abundant growth.
Yep.
So I think you did fantastic.
Thank you.
I love that.
I should have gone back and listened to the episode, but I did go back and find my notes that I took from this. It was like maybe 2023 before the first Abide in the Word conference. And I mean, this just happened to happen around that time. Like, it didn't have anything to do with that, but I was listening to a podcast. It was on That Sounds Fun. And I think it was Hosanna Wong maybe was launching a book or something. I don't know a whole lot about her. I just happened to hear this episode. And so I'm going to tell the story wrong for anybody that's like, that's not how it happened. You're correct. But she was talking about the vine, and she's talking about pruning and bearing weight and different seasons. And she was talking specifically, if I remember right, about seasons where you feel like, am I doing anything? Like, is this effective? Am I doing anything? Why is this happening? Like questions of why. when you're wrestling with why of your calling or bearing fruit or whatever, weightiness, heaviness. And she called a friend, I believe, that had a vineyard that I don't think was even a believer, and was like, hey, is it true that like to bear fruit, you really only need like the vine and the branches? Like that's, and the person responded, yes and no. Like, yes, that is the only source of nutrients and life is the vine.
Mm.
Like, and at the same time, in order to really carry the weight of the fruit that the branches will bear, if the, you know, if they're successful and if they stay attached to the vine, they need a good trellis to hold them up. And so like she talked about just different spiritual disciplines that like if you're bearing, like if this branch, if we're talking about an actual branch, is bearing more fruit, then you need a good solid trellis. What, and this is the Hallie Die words, like what is that? Like your community, your Bible, like a morning devo might not suffice when you're teaching a class. Like you might need to dig into the word in a new way. Like you might need people praying, you know, with you in ways that you didn't know you needed. You know, a whole team to run alongside you in certain ways. And so I loved the way that was stated of like, absolutely none of that takes the place of the vine. And also the vine might be orchestrating those things for you to have a solid trellis, you know, that is actually to help you bear the fruit that you will bear in his name, you know.
That's good.
But I loved that. Well, having gotten into that a little bit, so you talked about like relationships, like those, even if you don't want to use the word strain, because I'm speaking, you're not, I'm putting words in your mouth, but just like, just distance. Like, you don't get to see maybe this friend, or you don't get to talk to that friend, or that friend might not be able to volunteer, you know, and like there are times where, and I can speak to this too, and Lindsay, I'm sure you'd agree. But like there are times where when you feel very called to run in one direction in ministry, it can feel lonely when you look up and don't feel like either anyone's running alongside you or the people you thought would be running alongside you are. Have you experienced that, Bethany? And like, what do you feel like you've found if you have?
I have, and sometimes it's hard because you just feel like the closest people to you should be running aside, like beside you doing this, and they are just they can't show up all the time, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they have a job, they have a life, all the things, and so do I know that they're always praying for me in the vine? 100%. Does it feel lonely? A lot of times, yes, because two, when you're with your closest people, if y'all aren't seeing the same things, sometimes it's hard for them to understand.
Right.
You know, the depths of like why I am getting woken up in the middle of the night because of what the conversation I had with that mom today, or whatever it is. You know, and so it is, but then, you know, through the vine, we have so many different ways for people to be a part of the vine. You know, if it is come and teach a Bible study, but our Bible studies are during the day. So unless you're a stay-at-home mom with kids that are in school, or, you know, maybe somebody who's retired or something, that doesn't make sense for you. A lot of college students, a lot of ULM, FCA students come and volunteer. But we also have like Abide in the Word and different field trips and stuff like that are at nights or on weekends, stuff like that people can still participate. But even like, to me, just when you see like your podcast every week, I might not know who's on there, but I truly support you. I support the Saltworks. I support Lindsay. When that comes up, I'm going to share it. You know, I'm going to share it so that it reaches more people, because we don't have the same friends on social media.
Right.
You know, so if you see something about the vine that comes up that we share, could somebody share it? That's still supporting you.
Right.
You know, there's so many just different avenues that people can do to support you in your ministry, even if they physically can't show up.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that's so good. And I like sort of along the same line, but I think one thing for me is being like, when there's someone close to you, they're like, you know, do they not have the same conviction I have? And like, honest answer is like, No, they might not.
Yeah.
And two answers. One, like they might be in a place where like they feel defeated and they're don't know that they can pour out anywhere, or are just locked into the bondage of comfort, or like whatever. I mean, whatever that looks like. I mean, we've talked about how hard that is. And so there's a whole ministry there, or they are running 90 to nothing in another area of ministry that I don't see. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so it's like, I think sometimes when we're doing vocational ministry, and it doesn't have to be vocational, but especially in that area, like it can feel like if people aren't doing this thing because that's our passion, it can feel like, are they doing anything?
Right.
And they are. You know what I mean?
They are.
And there have been seasons of my life where I wasn't. So,
right.
Do you know what I mean? And it's like, it's almost like there's this whole ministry of like changing my awareness for the world around me and how do I reach them, and a whole ministry of like also ministering to the people in the church who don't see that yet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like haven't woken up to like, this is why we're here and this is what we do,
Yeah.
And so it's like there's bondage both ways, and I feel like that's a big thing for us in the Saltworks is like using people's stories to move towards like, this is why we're here, to make his name known, and like are you running the race up before you? Like this person that was on the podcast today,
Right. It reminds me of in James when he talks about being doers, not just hearers of the word, and how like Satan loves for the church to be filled and then go out and do nothing from what they just learned, know? And so for anybody who does want to serve, but maybe feels not equipped,
right?
Like his spirit equips us.
Right.
I'm not equipped. I did not finish college. I didn't, I did not go to school to learn what I'm doing right now. It is through his word and through his prayer and just trusting and believing in him that he's going to show up and use my mouth. I always have to pray that, Lord, this is just your mouthpiece. I don't, it's up to me. It's going to be some made up word that's going to come out. So, I'm going to need you to do it. So he will equip you. Just show up, to whatever that is.
Right. I love that. What do you feel like, I have two more questions and I don't, if you have something, don't let me cut you off, but what do you feel like, having said that there's ministry over here too, and there's grace over here too, of like, yesterday we didn't know what we know today, you know what I mean? Yeah. But what do you feel like you wish more believers in the church, in the Western church, realized about ministry and around the world around them?
That in Matthew 18, when he says go, am I saying 18? Go.
Sure. I don't know.
It's in Matthew. And so he tells you to go and make disciples, baptizing them in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. That does not mean you have to go overseas. I have done so many overseas mission trips and truly love it so much. It is not my season of life with little kids to get to do that. That is every single day around you. That you don't have to go, to Africa or to wherever it is to see poverty. Yeah. It is right here in our own backyard, and that's what opened my eyes so much, is that this community in Northeast Louisiana, these kids are growing up with my kids. Yeah. These women are the same age as me, and one day when my kid's in college and maybe they're a server or something, they're going to be waiting on these people, or vice versa. And so our calling is to get out of the church walls and to minister around us. And there's always a job that needs to be done. I mean,
can I ask you two questions that I think hold people back? Yeah. What if I don't have a story that I feel like anyone can relate to? What if I've grown up in the church and I feel like I have, I'm putting in air quotes, not a testimony? Can I be effective there?
Yes, you can. Everybody has a story, so you still do have a story. And all people want is love. They want to feel seen. And if you've grown up in the church, then you know about Jesus, and you can go and give somebody a hug and tell them Jesus loves you. Like it's as simple as that. I remember some of the very first times we started going to Grace Place 2 years ago. And that's how we got some of the moms to come to our Tuesday Bible study was from there. Mm-hmm. And one of them looked at me and was like, I was hoping you were coming today because I needed a hug. And so when I gave her a hug, like she wouldn't let go. And she was like, I don't ever get this. She didn't get it from her mom. The only time she got touched was not in a good way, so she truly just wanted a hug and a smile, and so yes, anybody can do it.
Okay, here's the other thing that I think keeps us from, I mean, there's 1,000 things in our own worlds that we can just get too comfortable, distracted, whatever, or say I'll do that next week, and then it's 2 years later and you haven't. But like, I think sometimes we can look at like these organized things and go like, okay, the Good News Club, like it looks like there were 20 people there. Is me showing up going to make a difference? Like, what do you have to say to that?
Yes. Because there was, life groups that would make sandwiches. I think they made the first day 30 sandwiches, and I said, we didn't have enough. Thankfully, we had some bread and cheese and meat in the car, and we made 30 more. And so then they were meeting at the church, making 100 sandwiches for the rest of the week for every single day, showing up. So there was 6 people in my mom's life group who did that, and then some other moms that were Rachel's friends, because they were like, we need more people to show up a different day with lunches, And so they got their kids involved. Kids wrote on the paper brown sack, Jesus loves you, and a cross, and like all of the stuff. Those moms and kids loved that. And, so there were people who were just serving in the background. And then we had dance parties out there every day. I mean, I'll gladly sit there and dance with anybody, but this is where some of those younger, we had some OCS and Sterlington people come out there and serve for service hours. And so I gave them to go do Forrest Frank songs, in any capacity we needed. And can always, there's not enough.
Because I think people don't realize all the moving parts. Like there's so much. And so, like I would think like for anyone who thinks like, well, maybe I will just ask. Like that's step one is what do you need, in those kinds of situations? Because I think sometimes people can feel intimidated by, oh, well, I mean, I can't go teach a Bible study, or I don't know about that. But like there's food that has to be, when y'all do Bible studies, you have food. Like there's so many moving parts to all of that you can find somewhere, like they start somewhere.
Somewhere.
Yeah. Doesn't have to be within your gift, quote unquote. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Everybody can make a sandwich, and we need to.
Yes.
Andrew says I say sandwich weird, so it felt like it came out weird that time. Maybe
sandwich?
He's right. Yeah. Sandwich.
It
sounded pretty, I don't know, it sounded normal to me.
He said, he used to say, you say sandwich.
You didn't do that time. Maybe you've corrected that.
Yeah, I feel like he's like,
he said it enough. You've corrected it.
Anyways, we digress. Okay. Tell us about Abide in the Word, what it is, and this year.
Okay.
And this year being 2026. But
yes. So Abide in the Word, this will be our 4th year to have it, which is
wild.
So wild.
Yeah.
And so when we started Abide, one, we needed a fundraiser, to help support the Vine. But we do minister to women. And so, and that is where our heart is to loving women in our community. And so if maybe you're not pregnant right now, maybe you haven't experienced an abortion, you're still a woman. That's where Abide in the Word came through, is we wanted a weekend of filling the church or whatever space we were doing it at with all denominations, all denominations.
There you go.
And, believers and unbelievers to come in and just feel loved, seen, and make new friends, And so we were like, let's have a women's conference. And so that's what Abide in the Word is. And Hallie has been a part of all of them, being the first one. Let's talk about that for a second. Is Hallie, Trillia Newbell was our speaker for the very first one. And so I was talking to Trillia on the phone, and she was like, okay, Bethany, how am I going to get from the airport, to my hotel and whatever. And she was like, can you find me a driver? And I was like, yes, I have this friend, Hallie Dye. Had not asked Hallie this. Okay. I could not. And then I was like, oh my gosh.
You're like, who do I know that I can throw under the bus? No.
But I was like, what if Hallie is busy? I mean, she already told me she was free for the weekend, but like maybe not to be a chauffeur. Like, I don't know. But
I said I would do whatever y'all needed.
You did. And so I was like, yes, she's great. She's actually in the process of writing a book. And like all this stuff's coming out of my mouth. And I'm like, I cannot believe I said that.
I couldn't either.
No. But look at you now. Just saying.
Because like within 5 minutes of her getting in the car, she was like, Bethany tells me like you teach a life group, And I was like, oh, what else did Bethany tell you? But yeah.
But how cool was that relationship?
Yeah, so for people, we did actually tell part of this story last season with the book launch.
With the book launch
and
episode,
any of the episodes in the month of March, we did book stuff. But that is how my book got published, was you threw my name out there and then asked, can I do it? Which I was like, yes, I can do it. And then met Trillia. You had already told her things that I probably wouldn't have said. And so she's asking about him, and I'm trying to change the subject, because not like not necessarily in like a self-deprecating way, but just like, I'm not going to talk about myself the whole like, you just got picked up in a strange place at the airport, and like, how are you? And how's your flight? Tell me about you. And, anyways, but like by the end of the week, by the time she flew out, she was kind of like, well, tell me about this book. Well, like, what do you mean? Well, give me an example of a chapter. So I'm like, well, okay, and so like I do, well, then we're pulling up at day 2 of Abide in the Word when I'm fleshing out this chapter, which was chapter 3. She was like, well, I feel like this is a book I need to know more about. And then told me she was the acquisitions director of Moody Publishers and asked if we wanted to meet. So long story short, she acquired my book. That's how it got published.
Crazy.
Lord.
Yeah.
So cool.
How the Holy Spirit just works. See,
such a cool
if you
story.
tell him to use your mouth as a mouthpiece, you never know.
You might think you're going to make a sandwich, but listen to me. Okay.
But my favorite
part
part
accidentally publish a book
is when Trillia called me one day and said, congratulations.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about that.
And I was like,
now we're throwing her under the bus.
Yeah, I am. Hey, Trillia. Congratulations. You are a Moody Publishers author. And I was like,
yeah.
And I was like, no, I'm not. Like, I can't even say a word right. And I was so like, you meant to call Hallie. And she was like, oh my gosh, don't tell her. And I'm like, I'm not. And it was like she had full panic. And she was like, I'm going to call her right now. I was like, okay, I'm going to go to her house right now.
So she calls me, tells me the good news, which was wild. Heather Smith was at my house. And so she was like, I'll keep the kids corralled, because I was like, I don't know who this is. And I was waiting on a call of yes or no. Did they want to sign with me or not? Or whatever it's called. Sign the book contract and acquired my book. And so she calls. And so I'm like, don't know if I'm going to get good news or bad news, but don't want the kids like interrupting whatever that is, And so she was like, I've got the kids. So I go out, take that phone call. So she tells me the great news, which was wild. That still hasn't set in, but who knows? And then
out to the world
right
now.
Yeah. People have it in their hands.
Yeah. Who knows? Somebody else did that, but like then she told me that story. So we talk longer, because then it goes into like, well, this is how it's gonna look, and this blah blah blah, and I'll get this to you, and whatever, like the conversation was a little longer. So I hang up, walk back inside my house, and you're there,
standing there.
You were like,
it was a long conversation. I was like,
guess what? Yeah. Well,
yes.
I probably made other phone, like I probably called Andrew, whatever. So yes,
that was so cool though.
Wild,
yeah,
because you already knew before me.
I did. I turned it down for you. No. But yeah, so abide in the word this year, which is my first time to announce it.
Yes.
Is Hallie Dow will be a speaker.
No.
Again.
Yay.
Yes, I'm excited.
And we have Cassie Hammett coming back from the Hub and Purchase.
Was that 2 years ago?
Yes.
She could just get up there and talk all day, and I will listen.
Absolutely.
About whatever. It doesn't matter what she wants to talk about.
We've done 2 trainings. We've gone with our Vine volunteer and staff to her. Just her training's phenomenal.
Yeah.
I can't get enough of it.
Yeah.
And then Ashley Miner, who has been on the podcast before.
Yes, she has. And I met her at, I think that was also 2 years ago.
Yep, same abide.
Yeah,
Jamie
same
Abbey.
abide. Yes,
well,
we love
exciting.
Ashley. I know, super pumped. So hopefully when this comes out next Tuesday, that ticket sales will be ready. Yeah. But if not, they will be coming soon. So.
Yes. Well, if they're ready, then we'll post.
Yes.
If not, we'll share it whenever.
Yes. Exciting. So exciting.
Oh my goodness.
It's always a good time. And North Monroe worship team will do worship again because
they're
like
so
the best,
good.
and they
They're
just
so
their team is phenomenal. So
I'm excited. I can't wait. And when is it? When is
January?
Yeah.
The phone's in the other room.
Is it? Hold on.
January 23rd and 24th, I think. It's a Friday night, Saturday morning. It's always that same weekend, but I think that's.
I can't work things, so I can't help you. January. Okay, never mind. I can't read my calendar.
I'm pretty sure it's the 23rd and 24th.
I'll be there, whatever it is.
Please.
Yeah. Well, Bethany, thank you so much. I know you've got Grace Place. It's Wednesday.
It is.
You've got Grace Place to get to, but thank you so much for sharing, for just being willing to spend time with us and celebrate the 100th episode, almost an anniversary. We have not been here for 100 years, although it seems like it.
A birthday.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, that would be the same thing.
Yeah.
100 years,
100th episode. But also just like the willingness to be vulnerable and be honest about the great things and the hard things and how it's all been worth it. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And congratulations to y'all.
Thank you.
And thanks for having me back.
Thank you so much. Well, thank y'all so much for listening in to this week on the Saltworks. We will see you next week.
This is my story. This is your story.